I want to talk about the family policy in the broadest sense. I'm not a lawyer myself or a practitioner in the field of family policy. My field is politics, so I want to talk about the role of the relation between the family and the state. And I want to do three things. First, I want to start by talking briefly about a historical perspective on where this has come from and where it may be going. From there, I want to describe some of the current trends that are going on in family policy in the Western world. And having set that context, I would then like to speak a little bit, a few comments about the recent family policy here in Poland. History, in some ways, does not appear to be on the side of the family. It seems to be on the side of the state. I want to start by quoting a couple of historians, historical sociologists really, who argue that there is in effect a kind of inverse relationship between the family and the state. As the state becomes more powerful in the course of modern history, the family becomes weaker. And this has been the trend over since the Renaissance, really. In many ways, as early as 1933, Christopher Dawson was drawing parallels with Greece and Rome and the decline of the family in those civilizations. Later in 1947, Carl Zimmerman in Family and Civilization, despite the baby boom, so-called, he argued that the family had been declining since the Renaissance and was passing the point of no return. These writers make very powerful reading today. Of course, they were writing before the radicalism of the 1960s, put the family on the political agenda and made it a subject of political contention. Without dwelling or neglecting family factors, Dawson and Zimmerman also had a very keen understanding of the role of the state and the power wielded by government in the family decline, much more so, I think, than some advocates today. As Dawson said, as the decline in the ancient world, the family is steadily losing its form and social significance, and the state absorbs more and more of the life of its members. Functions which were formerly filled by the head of the family are now being taken over by the state, which educates the children and takes responsibility for their maintenance. Again, this is 1933. And this is quite a startling observation he makes. He says that the father no longer holds a vital position in the family. He is often a comparative stranger to his children who know him only as that man who comes for weekends. Zimmerman also pointed out that the state had a vital role, a central role in the destruction of the family. He said whenever the family shows signs of dysfunction, quote, the state helps to break it up. The state wishes to have only enough family power left as needed to achieve its functions. He argued that in the 19th century, law, quote, law piled on law and government agency on government agency until by 1900, the state had become the master of the family. Okay, again, in 1947, Zimmerman wrote, the family is now truly the agent, the slave, and the handmaiden of the state. From today's perspective, 1947 might seem like a kind of golden age of the family. But as Zimmerman observed, these changes came about slowly over centuries, almost imperceptibly. So each generation becomes acculturated to these changes and passes them on to the next generation, which adds more changes of its own. So it's quite striking. We don't notice. It would have been shocking to our grandparents if this had happened all at once, but over the course of time, this happens in ways that we don't even notice. Premarital sex, explicit dress, cohabitation, illegitimacy, divorce, daycare, convenience food, same-sex marriage, transgenderism. These things happen gradually, and we become acculturated to them.